Public education is only 150 years old, and we built it with a specific function in mind. We built the educational system to train kids to sit still long enough to work in a factory. That's what it's for, to create compliant, obedient factory workers. So the question we need to ask is, what is school for now? We're not asking that question. Parents, administrators, taxpayers are not asking the question, what is school for? I have an opinion. I think what it's not for is to create more factory workers, because we don't need more factory workers. I think what we need to do is teach kids two things. One, how to solve interesting problems, and two, how to lead. And yet if you look at just about any public school in North America or Europe, we're not teaching that. We're teaching kids how to do well on the test instead. Lots of times with organizations, you get what you build. And what we built when we built the school system is an institution that is insulated from the outside world. We built a bureaucracy that is designed to maintain its structure year after year. We built a system based on professionals doing professional work based on some decisions that were taken 100 years ago. So I'm not surprised at all that the school system doesn't wake up every morning, look at the outside world and say, oh, let's reinvent ourselves so that we can create better graduates for a different kind of world. We don't live in an industrial-driven economy anymore. We don't make the things we used to make the way we used to make them. What we have now is an economy where value is created by connections. Value is created when we work with people we trust, when expectations are high, when we innovate. All of those things come from human beings doing art, doing something without a map, doing something that matters to them. None of them come from following instructions. And yet from the time you're in first grade, what you are graded on, what you are rewarded for, is following instructions. That has to change. So if school is a factory, a box, a building that produces an output, that output is the educated student. Well, what they learned in Detroit in the 1980s when they were making lousy cars is that if you measure the quality of what you're making, the quality will go up. And so Detroit figured out how to cut down defects, but of course Japan figured it out faster than they did. And so factories and the industrial system all embraced scientific management run amok. They all embraced this idea of measuring every single detail. And we took that and we handed it to the factory we call school. And we say, if you can measure it, make it better. If you can't measure it, it doesn't matter. So why are we surprised that the people who work in schools, the people that we are rewarding for measurement, are choosing not to teach things they can't measure? The mistake is ours. The mistake is, as the owners of the factory, as the people who are paying for the factory, we are demanding the wrong thing. Instead of demanding things that can be tested by the ACT or the SAT or some other standardized test, we should be demanding enlightened human beings who desire to make a difference. If we start measuring how many of those are getting made and how big a difference is getting made, schools are going to start making something different as well. Anything worth memorizing is worth looking up. Everybody has access to everything they'd ever need if they have a smartphone. That you can find every fact, every figure, every mathematical calculation done for you. So why are we spending all of our time in classroom, extremely expensive time, extremely valuable time, getting kids to memorize something as opposed to giving them the incentive and the desire to look it up? We don't need people who are walking around knowing when the War of 1812 was. That is not a useful problem. The role of the classroom, as Sal Khan has pointed out, is to do homework. At night, we'll watch lectures. At night, we can send these kids home to see the best and the brightest teaching with passion in a videotape. But when I come online, and when I come back to school the next day, work with me, coach me, put me into uncomfortable positions. School is for homework. School is for problem solving. School is for mentoring and coaching and teaching me where my fear is and getting me to befriend it so I can figure out how to be in the business of leading and connecting and solving interesting problems, right? I don't need you to test me on whether I know the capital of Alaska. It doesn't matter. There's a little chip. It's about this big. It's called an Arduino. You can buy it for $29, probably wholesale half that. And on it is the entire Linux operating system and everything you need to build and operate a new kind of computer. The question I want to understand is, why aren't we giving that to 8-year-olds and say, here, figure it out? Why aren't we going to 9-year-olds and saying, here's a problem. No one knows the answer. Come up with your best approach. Why aren't we teaching kids that it's okay to say, this might not work? Because we're about to enter an era of innovation. We're the only successful people, and the only people who do work that matters are ones that wake up in the morning saying, this might not work. And yet, all we're teaching kids to do is stuff that they're sure is going to work, right? Dividing by 0 is against the law. You can't divide by 0, but 3 over 4, that will always work. It's 0.75. What we need to teach kids is that it's okay not to buy the Lego kit and follow the instructions. It's okay to just get a pile of Lego and make something, even though it might not work. Now that a college lecture is set free from the building, now that I can take a Stanford course or an MIT course for free anywhere in the world, we need to ask a new question, which is, what is college for? What has college ever been for? If all college is a scarce resource where we can control access so that only a few people get to see the lecture, then university is over. I think college is more important than that. I think college has always been about 3 things. 1, sure, access to lectures, no longer relevant, because the best lectures in the world are going to be done online. If I live in Manchester or Berlin, I don't have to take the course from Manchester or Berlin. I can take the course from the very best teacher on that topic in the world. No, I think we get something more than that from college and university. I think we get 2 other things. 1, who am I in school with? Who am I sitting next to? Who are my mentors? Who are my teachers? Who cares about me? Because that's a formative force in our life. And 2, accreditation. What label do I get to put on myself when I'm done? How do I prove I'm a Harvard man or an Oxford man? The scarcity is no longer going to be about who got to see the lecture. The scarcity is going to be, who did you sit next to? And how do you prove that you finished? And so it's not like the record industry, where all the record industry had was some file that was liberated from the vinyl LP, then put onto the CD, and now anywhere you want, whenever you want, for free. No, we have removed the classroom, but we got to figure out what colleges and universities offer that makes them worth the time and worth the money, so that someone will go through the hoops to get that label. Because all you've got is some faux scarcity that comes from the fact that you're accredited and the online course isn't. That's not enough to make me pay you $200,000. Sorry. You want a map? You're saying to people like Sir Ken and even me, tell me step by step what to do. You want instructions? You want the dummy's guide? Sorry, that's not what I do. I'm in the compass business, not the map business. I'm not the person who can tell you step by step by step how to create art. What I'm trying to tell you is that there's a huge disconnect, which is the world needs something from you, the school organizer, the school teacher. We need something from you, and you're not even trying to give it to us. I have no doubt that the brains and the passion in the education industrial complex are smart enough and focused enough to solve this problem 100 different ways if they choose to. But right now, before we start arguing about the tactics, we have to agree on the strategy. We have to agree that there is a problem that isn't being solved. And we have to stop trying to solve a problem from 1950 and 1962 and start acknowledging that the problem on the table is a different one. If we're really serious about education, this is the chance of a lifetime. You know, if you talk to people from the music industry, there are 2 camps. There's the camp that loved the industry part of the music industry, and they miss the limos, and they miss the big parties, and they miss the A&R guys. And then there are the people who like the music part, and they can't believe how amazing it is that an act can go from being unsigned to being known worldwide in 3 days. That if you care about musicians, the internet's the best thing that ever happened. More music made by more people, listened to more often than ever before. And the same thing is happening right this minute to education. The institutions, a lot of them are going to fall by the wayside. The sinecures, a lot of them are already under threat. But the amount of education that we can create is greater and faster with more leverage than anyone ever imagined. And how dare we settle for mediocre? How dare we settle for good enough? That we have this opportunity to lower our standards while we lower our costs. I would rather raise our standards. I would rather create something that's ridiculous, something that's impossible, something that when people look at it 5 years from now, they'll say, I can't believe we were able to teach this many people this much smartness.